Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back, everybody. You can take your seats. Hopefully, you've got a cup of coffee. There's lots of great conversations going on, which is fantastic. There'll be plenty of time at lunch, and we're in the final stretch now. So plenty of time at lunch, plenty of time this afternoon to network. I would like to recognize the presence of a very special guest who's just arrived, Mr. Michael Joseph, the chairman of Kenya Airways. If you could make yourself known. So obviously with all the work Kenya Airways are doing with Cape Town, it's absolutely fantastic that he's graced us with his presence. So welcome, Mr. Joseph. So moving on, we looked at some new technology in terms of the eVTOL that Embraer and Uber are developing. And now we're going to move on into new technologies and merchandising. So my next guest is an IATA trainer in MDC and One Order. A lot of the stuff he talks about goes over my head a little bit, but the way he delivers it and with such passion is fantastic. And Manish and I have worked together for 3 years, and he shares a very similar passion for Africa as me. He's there to build those relationships. He's excellent at doing that. You saw him on the stage last night, so that video is available on YouTube and Facebook for anybody who does want to see it again. So he may go through that repertoire again, who knows. But I'd like to invite Manish to the stage to take you through what's happening in the world of technologies and merchandising. So please join us, Manish.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, John. Thank you very much. So I'm very happy to see there are still some people. When John mentioned that my slot comes sometime just before the lunch, I said, oh, okay, I have to see how many people are still in the room. But I'm very impressed. Thank you very much for staying back. So yeah, I think what we saw this morning and what we heard yesterday in terms of technology, there's a lot of technology around. There's lots happening. There's a lot of vision. So, of course, we can't do everything. We cannot cover everything. You saw some vision about flying. We talk about, you've seen some things about also apps. What I'm going to cover today is basically focusing more on, if my clicker works, in the area of reservation. I think this is one of the, not say only critical, but one of the critical areas, because we all heard today that at the end of the day, we are here to make money. And airlines would like to make money. And one of the ways we are looking at making money now is merchandising. And the reason for that is pure and simple. We used to be full-service carriers. We used to offer everything what a customer might need. So when a customer made a reservation, had their ticket, they would come with a bag, they would check in, they would get a meal on the plane, they would drink, I don't know how much amount of alcohol or whatever they wanted to consume. And it was fine. It was okay because the airline priced their products, including. But then came the pressure from certain airlines which introduced themselves as low-cost carrier. Now, we did have yesterday some discussion about low cost and whether it is low cost or low price. I think we can keep that discussion on the side for a minute. We can always come back to that, and if not, during lunch. Important thing to know is that they were selling, or they still continue to sell their tickets at a price which is lower than the competitor or the so-called full-service airlines. Now, that, of course, put the pressure on the full-service airlines, and full-service airlines decided to put their prices down. The only way they could do that is that they decided to say, okay, you know, I have got extra pricing, extra cost, so I'm going to start to split things. And also, it was like matching the competitor. So some of you might know an airline called EasyJet. You know, when they came, I used to work for Swiss Air and Swiss, and at that time, there was a fierce competition when they started from Switzerland between Swiss and EasyJet. And the customers would go and look at the price, and they would say, EasyJet is cheaper, I'm going to buy that, and Swiss is more expensive. Then they would come to the airport with a bag, and the EasyJet would say, oh, you didn't check in online, you have a bag, you have to pay extra. At the end, the price the customer was paying actually was more than what they would have paid for Swiss. But it's just one example, and so don't quote me on that, but just to say that differentiation of products suddenly became very important. And today I am bringing that topic because it is one of the reasons why also IATA started to look at the whole concept of NDC. Now, for those of you who have not heard about NDC, and I believe there are people also here from airports and other branches and not necessarily airlines, NDC stands for New Distribution Capabilities. It is nothing else but writing down new standards of communication between airline systems and the distribution systems, or airline systems and airline systems, so that their products, like your bags, like your seats, can be managed. So I'm going to focus myself today in this session, talk about inventory management, a little bit what's technology doing in inventory management, what about fares and pricing, we want to talk about revenue management and communication, and last but not the least, reservation and ticketing. Now, I chose these areas because these are the areas where most of the airlines are having the challenge. It doesn't mean that they don't have challenges else, but I'm trying to stay focused on this topic for want of time and also for want of, let's say, more elaborate discussion platform. Inventory management. If I show this picture, if my clicker works, all right. Is somebody clicking when I click here? Like it's, no, okay. Yesterday, that's how we were testing it. Now, when I show inventory management and this picture, how many people of you, please raise your hand, understand what I'm trying to talk about? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so I'm not so bad with that example. For those of you who don't follow, these are English letter alphabets, and they are the ones which are used today to split the complete inventory of your aircraft into what we call in airline industry booking class. Some of you may know as an alphabet which appears on your ticket or on your boarding card, where you see somewhere written Y or C or any other alphabet. You know that maybe you don't relate to it immediately, and that's actually the problem. Customers don't relate to it. But what the customer sees is what is the seat I'm going to get? Where am I going to sit? The customer wants to know what kind of bags am I allowed, can I carry? And the customer wants to know, okay, am I getting some meal or not on the board? So there is a tremendous change in the perception also from the airlines with this NDC, that now they are able to bring across these products to the customer directly. So that's a technology change already happening. Now, 99.9% of you airlines have not embraced thinking going outside of this booking class. But the technology is there, and if you want to discuss more, we can talk about it. But technology is there for you to move away from here to there. Going to the next, fares and pricing. How many people in this room know about fares? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so quite a few. For those of you who don't, it is something which the airline prepares in advance, what they anticipate to sell or to offer to the customer, and files it. And this is then the price taken into consideration when a customer wants to make a reservation and then finally want to pay for it. This has changed, or the technology allows you to change into something very, very simple and straightforward, something like each individual product which is in your aircraft. So here are just some simple examples. We are talking about seat, we are talking about lounge, we are talking about meals. Very, very simple, but the technology allows you to do that today. Now, how many of you can embrace it today, and how many do you plan to, is another subject of discussion. We can talk about revenue management. Most of you might know or may follow revenue management today as something which you do together with your booking classes we talked about, and voila. So what you do today is you have your, so we talked about booking classes, the alphabets, you talked about fares. Now starts the activity. What you do is, the first thing the airline does is looks at which booking class is open for me. Once they have identified the booking class, they go look, okay, what kind of ability I have for the price. So there is a certain process you have to follow in order to be able to even request for a price. there are certain steps to be followed. And once you have had the price, you can then offer that to the customer. Customer can look at it, say, OK, buy it. And then the customer can go ahead and also do some other kinds of purchasing, for example, excess baggage or things like that. What the technology allows today, it enables you basically to change. And that's where now the IATA's NDC comes into play, is that you actually can create an offer. And what does it mean? You can tell to the customer, dear customer, I'm going to offer you a seat in the front of the plane. It has a little bit more recline than the rest of the plane. You can take one handbag with you. I see that you're going in the morning, coming back in the evening, and that's the price I'm going to give you. And today's technology allows you to do that. Again, I don't know, or I cannot quote of how many airlines actually are doing this today. But just to show you the role of technology, the technology is already there. Technology is advancing much faster than we airlines can actually grab it. But now it's up to you. So what I'm trying to show here is to show you a path. And if some of you are interested, you probably would go and explore more on it. So today we will make an offer. Once the customer accepts the offer, you create an order. So that brings me to another interesting thing which IATA initiated about a couple of years ago, and it's called One Order. For all those of you who do not know, let me maybe ask, anybody knows One Order? 1, 2, 3, okay, very few. So let me explain for those who don't know. One Order is basically a replacement of a PNR. Okay, maybe then I have to ask, how many people know what's a PNR? Okay, quite a few. Okay, good. So otherwise, I have to start a little bit behind. I have to go back to PNRs. So you create a PNR today, then you issue, when you make the payment, you issue a ticket, and then maybe you do a purchase after a ticket, then you get issued an EMD. EMD is electronic miscellaneous document. Now, this is what is happening today. So at the end, the airline is actually creating 3 different records and combining them together in their system, in their reservation system. IATA says that if we are using new technology, if we are communicating about an offer, when a customer buys that offer, why do you want to then split it again into a PNR ticket and EMD? Why don't we create an order? An order is something which today you can equate to any e-commerce transaction you might do. So I always take the example of Amazon, which is the most known brand, so to say. There are many others. And you could be buying multiple things there. For example, you could buy a book, you could buy a DVD, you could buy an object like a cassette player, for example. Cassette player is probably not right. A Blu-ray player. And you would still see them all in one row within the order. That's what you ordered. So that's exactly what IATA has said, that you can have a flight segment, you can have meals, you can have bags, you can have lounge access, whatever you want to have. You can have it all in one order. So that's the change which is happening with the technology. Again, there is nobody today in the world who has adopted it, and this is something now coming strongly by more and more airlines. We talk about communication because at the end of the day, it's all about communication between an airline reservation system and the outside world. How exactly do they continue? So some of you might know that today we still communicate using Edifact. What we do is as an airline, we distribute our schedules. Then we go ahead, as I talked about in the fares, you distribute your fares, and at the end, what you do is you create your availability. And availability, again, comes down to what you say actually to the external world is which booking class is available, and that's it. What happens today then is if you do that, you can change, and if you use a new technology solution, as we saw before, you start creating offers. So maybe I repeat myself, but just to say, offer is nothing but taking a particular product of yours, putting a price to it, and very clearly communicating to the customer what the customer is going to get for the money they pay. Subsequent to that, the customer says, okay, I am going to go for it, so a PNR is created. After the payment, EMD tickets are created. And in the new world, what you would do that is that you will come to orders, and then you start doing order management. Which would mean actually also you want to do, today there are changes in the PNR, changes, you have to sometimes cancel a ticket, reissue a ticket, etc. So all that gets simplified when you do order management and you create one order. And last, reservation and ticketing. So today, I think some of you might know that's how a PNR looks like or a ticket mask looks like. There is, I know it's not very clear to read, but the idea to show you is that there is a structure to it, there is a lot of information, but this is read only by the airline experts, by the reservation experts, by the ticketing experts, and it's not very easy for any person to just read and understand what it says. Versus if you use a new technology solution, you have, again, maybe it's not very clear, but what you see is a clear order structure. You have every particular product listed very clear, clean, and you can read, and a customer exactly knows what they are paying and what they are getting. So, any questions on this so far? Because I think I have come to the end of my slides, and I maybe ran through it very quickly. Thank you for your attention, but please, if you have any questions, we have still 1 minute and 32 seconds. All right, so I suppose I have bamboozled all of you, so you are thinking about it. Maybe in the afternoon you'll come and knock my door. Fine. So without much more time to spare, I would like to invite Richard Maslin here, who is the, I was going to say compare. He's going to hold the talk for the panel discussion. He's the moderator. And welcome, Richard. And here, I hand it over to you. Thank you.